Flogsville Legends, team, Golden Child, Crouching Lions, Guns N' Roses, Spur FC, Big Sharks, Little Chance, Walters Madness, Midfielders, Sorrells, King Kunta, Stan Hams, Smith Script, Oliver, Vincent Abraham, Phenomenal, FNW, and Bart, the Rabbitohs, 1B, 1C. Where's the flag? Give me the flag. Flogsville podcast for season 2021. It's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough.
Yes, welcome back to the round 9 wrap of the Flogsville podcast. Joining me, we've got a bit of a dual setup here. We've got 2 in 1. We've got a couple of fantasy pigs in the room. Coach of My God, Your Liberatore, Hugh Stone is joining us. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Scott. It's good to be back. I think it's my first appearance this year, which is for the whole pod anyway. I made a brief appearance, I guess, but yeah, it's good to be back with sound effects as well. I hadn't deleted the files, so a little pep up in the sound production quality, maybe
2021 edition.
Yeah, a few old ones, but that's all right.
No, we appreciate you stepping in short notice. We've had a couple of coaches couldn't be with us this evening, and next year we've got Coach of Guns N' Roses. How are you, Ben?
Yes, very well, mate. Yes, pleasure to be here as always. And yeah, enjoying this nice little new setup. We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Oh, very good, boys. Well, let's kick things off. Round 9. It was a bit of a weird round. There was some big scores from a few players, but some other players not so much, and some rookies doing not very much at all either. So we've got to start with our pig of the week.
Eats like a pig.
Very good. And of course, it was you, Hugh. My God, your Liberatore with a 21-35, mate. A massive week for your boys. Headlined by... yeah, there's the beanie. Headlined by a few players, but Josh Kelly there. Dane Zorko is a new inclusion. Hugh, talk us through your score this week.
Yeah, well, it's a bit lighter than what it should have been. Having the VC on the Friday night with Jack McRae and then screwed up the emergency score. So no, it was a good week in the end. Moved up in the rankings. Obviously got the W in the league, but yeah, it could have been a lot better. And that's sort of the regard we're holding ourselves in this year, actually. A real high level, setting the bar high and trying to push for the stars.
And your 2 trade targets obviously have some discussions during the week in the household, but your 2 trade targets in Zorko and Darcy Cameron getting the job done this week. Got to be pleased with that. Yeah, absolutely. It's good to get that instant reward when you bring someone in. And it wasn't looking too good at quarter time with the Zork on 9 points, but he came back against the Crowies and went all right. Beautiful.
Very good, mate. It's been an impressive start. I dare say in the top 4 well and truly now, and looking the goods. Well, as always, boys, we go from such a high to an unfortunate low, and I don't know if this is the lowest score of the year. It possibly could be. I'm not sure. I think there might have been some lower ones, but with a 17.95, boys, Hoffleberry FC on a bit of a slide. They've won 1 out of their last 5. Talk us through this. We've got nothing to talk about in terms of the year. And insert sound effect. Apologies.
Why don't you bring us potato? That's pretty bad. Mom, you're always trying to give me potatoes. What is it with you? I just think they're neat.
Hoffleberry FC, boys. What went wrong? Obviously, Scott Pendlebury being a late out Friday night really set the tone.
He did, and he didn't really follow it up much better with his captaincy choice there. And Travis Boak with an initial glance 76, thinking that hadn't been multiplied, but obviously that had been. What a shocker he had. But yeah, obviously you played him this weekend here, the pig and the spud. Yeah. That's an unusual. That doesn't usually happen. That dynamic. So, what did you see playing him?
I saw a lot of red dots on field to begin with. I think there was about 3 or 4. So he was in trouble from the get-go after selections, and then made his trades, and there's still the 0 there in Pendlebury. And then, yeah, he had the VC on McRae as well. So, but looking at his team, I think he had plenty of opportunities to still loop that. I guess in the way Serge likes to don't know, mess around with things. He decided to probably expect that I was going to take that and try and get a better score somewhere else to get that benefit, but it didn't work out for him. Yeah, it's a pretty putrid score.
I think it's a score just quietly that a lot of coaches around the league are quite happy with in regards to how Serge is usually quite up and about and has a lot to say, but obviously haven't heard from him this week, and he's obviously not doing too well this year. So
I think the coach sitting next to you there, Scott, would probably attest to that.
Yes, I think a coach of the Sisterhoods too would. Exactly right. Just his bench, boys. Just want to have a look at and highlight his bench. Apart from, Sam DeConning and Robbie McComb or McComb, however you say it, he's got Rochelle there and Dixon, but there's some red dots, and I think we'll go through tonight, that bench covering cash generation leading up to the buys. I think a few teams might get unstuck, and that's a concern for Huckleberry FC.
Yeah, majorly. It's never really been a great strength of his, unfortunately, over the years, Serge. But it looks like he could be a bit short later in the year, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right, boys, let's move on to our first matchup. And it was a round of upsets. And this really, we flagged it on the podcast that the midfielders had a real chance of knocking off the Crouching Lions, and they did so. 20-59 up against the 20-26, so a nice win there for Mids. What happened here, boys?
Yeah, I think as we highlighted last week, the Crouching Lions have sort of been cruising a little bit, and this was the week where it sort of come back to bite him a bit. Clary Oliver bringing it home with a 91 as skip, probably not cutting the mustard, and when you only lose by 33 points, that has a pretty big impact. So Cripps is unique, as well as Jack Carroll for the Carlton guys there on this Sunday afternoon. And obviously Cornelio, which a lot of coaches have, but Brett had him as a unique this week. So, sort of cruising by, but, it has been flagged, as you said, Scotty. And I guess on the flip side, Vince has been going really well lately. I think that's 3 or 4 in a row maybe, and up against some good teams. So he's certainly getting it done and come out the leaderboard there.
Yeah, in trend, as a listener in the podcast, I've heard a lot of captain choice and how much that's played a role, and this is a prime example of that with a small margin of victory and a big captain difference. So it's just attention to detail, isn't it? We always say it every year. It's the same old thing, but you got to be switched on, and currently Todd is, and unfortunately for Brett, he's sliding down the rankings at the moment.
All right, boys. Great result for Mids. Let's move on to our next matchup, which was a close affair. The Sisterhoods getting another victory over the Burtons in what was an impressive win. Boys, 2 words, Josh Kelly. Yeah,
as a fellow JK owner, I was very pleased to see him back in the guts where he belongs, getting plenty of touches and a few cuddles as well. But just on face value here, looking at the score, it's really close, and there's not a lot that went wrong either way. Maybe Jack Steele for Bert, Hurton obviously, but a very, very good round for the Sisterhoods, and they keep their foot in the door for a finals berth in their first year in the league.
Absolutely, yeah. Highlighted last week, the Sisterhoods, they're not as bad, I think, as the latter would suggest, and having a look at this captaincy choice there in Cripps as opposed to Cook Miller, that's a big difference, and still got the win. So there was plenty of commotion Friday night, plenty of a little bit of head wobble, I thought, from one of the Sisterhoods, but we don't mind that. We enjoy that sort of material. So Caleb Daniel having a really last quarter, and in the end turned out really pivotal. So
looking into the future and only having the 3 DNPs on the bench as well, so in a good position there of some cash gen and having some rookies to move across the buys, which is just great planning, and they're going to be a force to behold, I think, later on in the year.
Yeah, absolutely, boys. And this is not collusion, but as we've been talking about in the pod, Josh Rochelle, he's hopefully, fingers crossed, the Sisterhoods can get rid of him. It's been 4 weeks of forced trades for them. He's one that I'm sure they'll be looking to move on this week. All right, let's move on, boys. It was the Rabbitohs getting a good victory over the Glen Mountain Fan Club. Sean had been going really well, but this was a crucial game for Rabs, and he got the job done, boys.
He did. I'll be honest, I've really just turned on to this for the first time this evening. And Zach Williams, we get to mention every week Zach Williams for unfortunate things. And unfortunately, that really early calf, I think it was, on a whopping score of 4, when you go down by, 55. Pretty brutal, really. So, he usually doesn't score much more than 55, to be fair. But, really unfortunate for Sean. It looks a pretty even match apart from that. Some big uniques on either side. And, don't have much else to say. But important win for Abs. He mentioned it last week. Teetering a little bit, and important win to sort of sew up that top 6 or so that he's in, I think. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Just a trend that, across these first few matchups, all of those scores are in the 2,000 bracket. So it just shows how tight these matchups are and how tight the league is this year. Maybe apart from probably Healy and Serge putting up those really low scores, but, small injuries and things like that just come out of nowhere to really hurt. Which is unfortunate for Sean, because he was getting on a bit of a flare there. And
No, well said, Hugh. Yeah, unlucky there for Sean not to get the job done. But Rabs, he'll take that. And that's an important win, as we said last week, just to keep him in the 8. There's a few teams in that mix at the moment. All right, let's move on. It was an improved performance from Peter G and King Kunta up against the B Sharps. And the B Sharps got the win, boys, with a nice 2081, yet again in the 2000s. What did you guys see in this matchup?
We see a lot of uniques, and I see Lizard Blakey doing his thing again over the rapid 93. But apart from that, a lot of low scores, I guess, low and then really high, with the likes of Drake and JK for Pete going 130 plus. But then on the flip side, Whitfield, Bowie, and Pistol Pete there with 63. So a lot of up and down. But fair to say that's sort of the same with Dale. Darcy Cameron, obviously an inclusion there, which worked nicely for him and just got the job done enough, I think. So, never know. With the Sharps, they usually be up and down, but got the win this week. So.
Yeah, pretty much comes up. There's just a bit of a higher ceiling on Peter G's side, but also a lower floor. So the consistency of Dale's scores there just got him over the line.
Absolutely. All right, shall we move on, boys? Yes, your matchup, Hugh, we obviously had the big score there with a 21-35, and we talked about Surge, so we can really skip that one over. Team GC getting a huge victory over Smith's Cripps, boys. What happened here?
Well, a huge upset, that's for sure. Liam's, the reigning premier, and been putting up some nice scores all year, and to lose this one is an absolute huge win for Team GC. Maybe one of the biggest wins in the franchise history, some might say.
Yep.
Absolutely. Looking at this really, really closely, we see, I think it's the 4th consecutive week that Team GC has utilised the loophole option. And when you only win by 15 points, every point counts. So very good use there by Zach. And Mason Redmond is just a name that I've seen floating into his defensive line. I'm not overly confident on that selection, but this week he seems to get the job done enough for him. Winning with Jack still going down and finding it out there for him is a huge win. So, big setback from Mulesy, but we focus on the positives. So great work, Zach.
Yeah, just on that Redmond pick, he's owned by less than 1% of the whole entire competition. And that's the type of coach that Zach is. He loves a unique. Recall when he first was on the Took Miller train. Probably 3-4 years ago, before anyone else was really even giving him a look at. So, love that from Zach. It's what makes him a very valuable member of the Flogsville League.
Just on Liam's side, boys, Jai Caldwell, a little injury there, didn't help him. And, Cripper being tagged as a pod as well, and Cogs as a pod really just killed him but still putting up a decent score this week. But good on Zach for getting a win, an important victory for him. So let's hope he can build some momentum. All right, let's talk another close game, boys. McRae, you've done it again, getting a win over Phenomenal. We flagged this game as a must-win for Phenomenal, but Sam getting the job done.
Absolutely, and I think it was flagged last week in that segment that the information that was delivered by Ben Bullymore, sort of coming in on my turf there with the stats, the scale of hardness. But yeah, Tomo hasn't been scoring that well this year, and this is just another example of that. He might have had a bit of an easy run, and things might be, turning sour really quick for him if he can't turn it around in the next few weeks. With there's rookies on field, it's just a few too many of them, and can't be having that at this stage of the year.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but I think on Sam's side, he's kept Tom Mitchell there for the week and looped him, as well as he's still got Matt Crouch. I saw there floating in his utility position, so
Yikes.
I'm not sure where that's sitting for Sam. I would have thought that's a reasonable priority to move him on, considering he's been omitted. But yeah, he keeps winning, keeps ticking over, and sitting second, nice and pretty there. So yeah, he's doing something right and keeps rolling. So.
Yeah, he sure does. And Tom Fennerty's big inclusion of Rory Laird the last few weeks has definitely pumped out his scores. So that's a positive to end on, I think, boys. We will move on, of course. It was the Keys in another huge upset, destroying my team, really. It was a woeful week for my boys. But what did we see from the Keys? Everything just seemed to go right for him this week.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at those pods there, apart from Callahan as a rookie, everyone doing what they need to do, and some going that little bit extra, like Petrarca and Trelaw, with some good matchups. So, yeah, very unlucky not to get pick of the week there for Jake, as he was just outcoached by someone maybe a little bit better, but a dominating win, and his side compared to last year is a lot better, and definitely someone to look out for in the future.
I think for you there, Scotty, Friday night wasn't an overly enjoyable evening watching that game and watching or having Jake in your presence. He seemed quietly confident and sort of remarks thrown around about how he wouldn't take the 123 from McRae, which was just absurd. In the end, Stanley prevailed for him. But yeah, really good week, as you said. And I guess on your side, Scotty, just a couple of those underperformers. None more so than the captain there, unfortunately, in Clary Oliver. And yeah, Nick Martin is unique. I'm guessing Jake's moved him on. So plenty to work with still, obviously, for yourself. But yeah, huge win for Jake moving forward.
Yeah, it was just one of those occasions, really. Apart from we both have Heaney, so I can't really use Heaney as an excuse, but. It's just, his boys just went off, and mine were just sort of a bit meh, except for Took Miller, really. Disappointing, but back to the drawing board this week for my boys. That's for sure. All right, let's move on to our last matchup. Let me just find it. Here we go. Total Eclipse of the Heart going down to your boys, Ben, Guns N' Roses, with a 2091. Talk us through your win there, Ben.
It was pretty comprehensive in the end, led by none other than my man Millsy, getting it done beautifully on Saturday night with a million tackles and heaps of posies. So, we mentioned with Hills last week, not really utilising the captaincy that well. He did it this week, albeit on the first game of the round again. So just something to highlight, but not much else to talk about. Jake Lloyd had a 54-point last quarter, I think, to bring him up to a respectable 100. But unfortunately, for Hills, not to be.
Just taking care of business for yourself there, Ben. I think it's the first time, I haven't looked at the teams that much this year, not being on the pod, but C. Mills, is he the only owner in the league, or have I missed somebody else owning him?
That's a good question. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't saw his name come out tonight. So
Yeah.
No, might be the only one.
Obviously, you got him at that right time when he was, down probably to 850k and jumped on when nobody else did, and it's paying dividends for sure as he's the form player at the moment and getting the job done every week for you, it seems. And it's going to be a little bit scary when people come up against those who are in the future and see Mills there and potentially with a 2 times on him as well. So, very strong side, and obviously being in the hat watch. You got to keep it going, obviously, to try and maintain that ranking as well. So,
hanging in there.
What are we looking at?
58. We're still hanging in there.
A little bit of a slip.
Yeah. We'll keep going on, but the bias really through. That's still in there. That really is. But yeah, it'll be fine. We move on.
All right, boys, let's have a look ahead to the round 10 fixtures, and we'll sort of, as we do normally, we'll pick apart a couple and then we'll just have a quick prediction for those less meaningful games. They're all meaningful, but you know what I mean. Crouching Lions up against the Burtons boys. Crucial game here for both teams. Both teams coming off a loss. What do we see happening this week?
Huge game this, I think, as you said there, Scotty, both coming off a loss and both respectable scores, but would like a bit better. Big watch there on Jack Crisp. There's some rumours today, obviously, that he's got a little bit of illness, which seems to be floating around the Collingwood camp. So as a unique, he'd be sweating on that one, Brett. But
first I've heard of that.
Yeah, but yeah, on the flip side, I guess Jack Steele is obviously the big name for Brad, who he has to deal with this week. So both a couple of issues on either side, but I think I'll be favouring Brad. Not really sure why, but I'll go that way.
I'll go Brad. Just the Foley and Carroll remaining on field for Brett. They're a bit, so. Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Foley out with concussion. Crisp, a little bit of a tummy bug. If he plays, he might be a little bit affected. And then just looking at Brad, his pods and their matchups, I think, Rory Laird up against the Saints, even though they've been quite hard to score against. And then, just Cooper Hamilton, I think, is probably like Dacos, Martin and Greg Clark. Cooper Hamilton, I'd say, is in that conversation of the most reliable rookies you probably want on your field. So I quite like that move, and especially against West Coast, he should be all right. All right, let's move on, boys. Let's go. The mixed fielders up against the Glen Mountain Fan Club. It's the Ranella Derby, boys. What is going to happen? Both teams have been in good form.
They have, and I think I'm going to go with the Glen Mountain Fan Club. I think just based on form, they're scoring at a little bit higher rate. But obviously with that Zach Williams fix-up, they'll need to make. But, mids, there's nothing really to poke holes at, but maybe Caldwell, Rochelle, Hamilton, probably needs to move on 2 of those if you can. I'll go Glen Mountain.
Yeah, super tight one. Be within 50 points for my prediction. So I'll go Todd just to even up. He's been in great form, so why not?
Excellent. All right. Let's move on to the Sisterhoods up against the B Sharps, boys. What do we see happening here? The Sisterhoods lately have been sort of win-loss operators. Important that they, get 2 in a row.
Yeah, we did notice that last week in conversing with the respective coaches. And I'm sure they're aware of that record. So obviously, you mentioned before, Scotty, Joshua Shelley remains unique for the Sisterhoods. We would expect that to not be the case this week. And I think they should deal with the Sharps pretty comfortably for mine, having a look at some of these names. So assuming they can move him on well, I think they'll win.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe just Ben Keys, he's been out of form slightly lately, so he might have a bounce back game, which could be a bit dangerous. And Zorko back in that forward role against the Hawks, I think he might have a tasty one as well. So I'll stick with the Sisterhoods though, even though Dale might have a few good performances.
Yeah, very, very well done, boys. Excellent analysis. Let's move on to the Rabbitohs up against your boys, Hugh, in what is a tasty top 8 matchup. We've got to say, let's have a look at this matchup. What's the plan? I don't know.
Well, if crisp is all right, I know my plan, but we'll see what happens. But no, looking at that, it should be, hopefully, if all things go well, a decent win. Don't want to sound arrogant, but I might not show up here again. So, fuck it. I'm going to win. Rao, Hobbs, McInerney, yeah, they're probably not quite where you need to be at this stage of the year. So, yeah, I think we might be all right.
Yeah, I have to agree. Liberatore is obviously sitting next to me, but you would have seen that head wobble on Cam. I reckon there's a little bit of that sitting third. I think they'll keep rolling. But yeah, you never know.
Never know. That's right. See what Rabs can do at the trade table, and captaincy, of course, will be critical in this one. Josh Kelly versus the Eagles looms large, and also, like you said, Hugh, Zorko and Tassie against the Hawks is tasty as well. All right, we will move on to our next matchup. Quick prediction here, boys. It's Smith's Crips up against King Kunta, both in the 2000s last week, but I think I'm going to back in Liam to bounce back.
Agreed.
Yeah, massive week for Mills. I think we touched on it last week. His ladder position doesn't reflect his side, and having another loss last week to Zach doesn't help that case. So I think this is a big game for him, the reigning premier, and I think he'll bounce back accordingly. Excellent.
Let's a quick one on Hoffleberry FC. Any chance against Sam's boys? McRae, you've done it again.
0 chance. Actually.
Okay.
I'll give it a 4% chance. The McRaes, they're not ticking as well as what people think, I reckon. I think there's a bit of a boil over coming. I'm really not sure if this week, though.
Another one that's ladder position doesn't reflect their side potentially. All right, this is a real interesting matchup. It is Team Golden Child up against my boys. What do we see happening here? Zach's obviously got to deal with the unfortunate injury to Jack Steele this week, but with being Jack Steele at that price, you'd be confident he would be able to afford a Callum Mills type, or even a Josh Dunkley, who's one of the few coaches that doesn't have dunks. So some options there for Zach this week, boys.
I really enjoy how you're telling him to select his side. That's fine. No, without sounding silly, I think it is a little danger game. Obviously had a good week last week, Zach. So, the likes of Luke Ryan, Mason Redmond, and Jay Gresham and Dylan Moore, they're up and down like a roller coaster. So you never quite know, but obviously you'd have to back yourself. Scotty runs on the board, I think. Yeah,
I'll also back in the Sarongs. You just can't trust those players that Ben mentioned. So, but neither can you trust Butters and Cornelio. So who knows? Anything can happen, but I'll back you in, Oz.
Thank you. Yeah, just flag those Port boys up against Geelong in Geelong. Could be, let's hope for lots of tackles for them to get some points. Let's move on to Phenomenal up against your boys, Ben. This is an uphill battle for Feno, but once again, he's hanging on to that 8th spot just. What do we see happening here, Hugh? We'll start with you, mate.
Yeah, I see a rout. Guns N' Roses, by far and away the best team in the league at the moment. Against a sliding phenomenal. I'll put an extra syllable in there. A lot of work for Tom to do at the trade table with the likes of Hobbs, Gipkus, Hamilton, Heaney, not quite performing, and the like. So, yeah, he has got Hewitt there, which I didn't see until I scrolled down. But, the Dozers.
Yeah, I've done the research this weekend of Phenomenal. and they do have a bit of bank, cash in bank. So I think the options are going to be there. But, we obviously back ourselves. And, the Giants boys there, obviously big week, new coach, new setup, whatever it looks like. So likes of Tom Green and I can't see anyone else is unique. But those, having a look at those and seeing how that changes this week will be a big watch. So.
Absolutely. All right. Our last matchup, boys. We've got the Keys up against Total Eclipse of the Heart. Now, the Keys coming off a very impressive win against my boys in the second highest score. You'd think the Keys would be too strong.
You would think that, yes. You could almost probably bank on it, I reckon.
Yeah, it's one of the more certain results, I think, this round. I can't really see much going the other way, which would indicate any other result. So, no, the keys for another one on the trot.
Very good. Well, that does it, boys. How fast were we this evening?
Quick.
We were quick. No 10-minute warning as of yet. This is great news. Well, thank you, coaches. Hopefully you enjoyed this evening. We were down a couple of coaches, but thank you to Hugh and Ben for joining me this week. Watch out for the thumbnail. Yes, that'll be entertaining this week, that's for sure. All right, everybody, good luck. Let's hope for no injuries and or illness, and go well. See ya.
Cheers, Scott.